I can. MashaAllah. Bismillah. Alhamdulillah. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Welcome. I see a Tasneem. I see Cal 95. I did get your question, by the way, Cal. Inshallah, so what I would find, I think most helpful is let's talk a little bit about what's going on today, and then see how the question fits in, see if some parts of it are addressed. And I might ask you, it looks like actually he's still connecting to audio, so I don't think he can hear me. We'll get back to him, inshallah. Welcome, Zubair, TJ, mathematician, mashallah. Al-Muallima, brother 5,000, Serenity, Fulan, Anas, and brother Muhammad. Welcome, everybody. Inshallah, you're doing well. Inshallah, you're having a blessed Sunday. Inshallah, your families are well and healthy. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make things easy for brothers and sisters all over the world. Some recent difficult events in Afghanistan. May Allah bless them, may Allah guide them, may Allah make things easy for them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to be part of the growth and the khair and the solutions for all the challenges in our ummah. Ameen. We're talking about accountability today. Bismillah. Inshallah, we're doing well, guys. Let's get started, inshallah. I'm going to ask you guys some questions in a bit. So I look forward always to getting to know some new names here that I see. So I look forward to getting to know you a little bit more here, inshallah. So let's start out a little bit. Some words from Allah Azza wa Jal, where He says in Surah An-Nisa, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم أو الوالدين والأقربين إن يكن غنيا أو فقيرا فالله أولى بهما فلا تتبعوا الهوى أن تعدلوا وإن تلووا أو تعرضوا فإن الله كان بما تعملون خبيرا. Teacher of mine says, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls you to something in the Quran, even if it seems far-fetched, even if it's, or the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam gives some advice, mentions a virtue, even if it seems far away, even if it seems like, there's no way that's something that I can achieve. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls you to it. We should ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us from among those people. And here Allah Azza wa Jal is calling to being a people who uphold justice. Qawwamina. A word that implies really seeking and striving to uphold something. Right? Qawwamina bil qist, with justice. Shuhada'a lillah, bearing witness to God. Bearing witness to the truth, speaking the truth. Walau ala anfusikum aw al walidaini wal aqrabin, no matter who it's against, including when it's against our own selves. That there's something greater than my desires. There's something greater than my fear of consequences. There's something greater than my struggles that continue to be struggles, for an extended period of time when I hope that they wouldn't be. And the truth as it is deserving of being upheld, is deserving of being manifest, of being shown, right? Even if I continue to struggle with it. Looking at the explanation of this portion of the verse, that, we might, if you think about, like in the case of, think of this as in a court, right? And the person that's, the person that has a case, that's bringing a case to the court, that person might be wealthy, ghaniyan, and now you're being brought maybe as a witness, and that person is wealthy. Then what might influence us to be a little bit shaky about upholding truth and justice is we might think that person can benefit us in some way. So sometimes that person is powerful, that person is our boss, right? That person is somebody that has some influence over our affairs. Then we're hesitant to speak what's on our heart and on our mind, right? If it goes against that person. أو فقيرا. That person is poor. That person is needy. If we feel like that person deserves a break, if we feel like that person, if they face the consequences, it's going to be really hard on them. إن يكن غنيا أو فقيرا. In either case, فالله أولى بهما. You don't try to fill in the role of Allah Azza wa Jal. You don't try to manipulate reality or manipulate truth to try to bring some benefit to yourself or to that person or out of pity for that person. Allahu awla bihima. Allah is a better caretaker than you are to try to manipulate the truth and change it. Allah himself is the truth. فَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا الْهَوَىٰ أَن تَعْدِلُوا. Don't follow the hawa. Don't follow the hawa. Your own desire, the thoughts that come and go, the whims. وَإِن تَلْوُوا أَوْ تُعْرِضُوا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ خَبِيرًا. There's two things that we can do, and Allah is aware of both of them. Right? And in both of these things that are being described, it's not describing outright lying, but it's describing something different. In talwu, if you give a small little tweak to the truth to try to make it suit what you want, smell something. أو تعرضوا, or you turn a blind eye. There's something going on that you can interject, with some knowledge, with some truth, that you can bring light to the situation, and you turn away. أو تعرضوا فإن الله كان بما تعملون خبيرا. Allah Azza wa Jal is well aware of that. You know, the things that are mentioned here, particularly in the middle of the verse, غنيا أو فقيرا فالله أولى بهم. Allah emphasizing these situations that we might think that twisting the truth is appropriate. That applies in our journey of healing, in our journey of recovery, in an interesting way, because we go to two extremes when it comes to accountability, when it comes to honesty. I could think of two extremes that we go to. Look at some of them, inshallah, but just to look at them briefly. In both extremes we justify. Both extremes we rationalize. One of the extremes that we go to is, if I bring more light to my truth, if I allow my truth to be better known to the people around me, then that'll hurt them, and it won't help them. They'll just feel upset, disappointed. They have a really good image of me, and so it's better, for their sake, I'm just going to keep things secret. I'm going to keep working on things myself. Keep working. And this has happened to me for part. We hear something about the importance of honesty. And I hope, by the way, that the quality is coming through fine with the video and sound. If it is cutting up or anything, let me know, because there's some tweaks that I can make. But if it's coming through fine, then alhamdulillah, that's good. The other thing we can go to is part of a recovery community, and I hear something about accountability. Sometimes somebody will say, yeah, alhamdulillah, I've got, 123 now accountability buddies. And I, mashallah, like almost everybody on my contact list knows rarely in between. Okay. In that case, let me make a quick switch then, inshallah. Thank you for letting me know. Bismillah. It'll just take a moment, inshallah. I think inshallah it'll be a little bit better now. The other thing we can go to is that everybody on my phone list, is somebody I've shared with about my problems. I meet people at the masjid and I just tell them about my problems, and I join groups 7 days a week, twice every single day. I hop on a group and I share with people. Of course, I'm exaggerating here, but that's an extreme that we go to, that some of us might find ourselves going to, and that's the first extreme. I'm taking everything upon myself, and I'm very controlling, and I'm I take it upon myself to make things match how I think they should be. So instead of allowing the truth to be known, I try to make the truth how I want it to be. The other extreme is that I place the responsibility on somebody else, and I assume that just because I'm sharing the truth out there, that now the fact that I've done that step, that things are going to be taken care of, and I'm kind of placing responsibility on. So we'll look at these two extremes a little bit more later on, inshallah. But both of those are extremes, and both of those we need to be careful about. Let me share a little bit, two stories here, inshallah. One of them, kind of demonstrates the power of communicating with each other. The group that we have here is so beautiful. In the office hour, we don't get to talk as much, right? But that can happen in the forums, on the sobriety mastermind, inshallah. This is one conversation that happened on the forums. And the person, kind of the main character here, the name of that character person is brother 2000, and we have brother 5000 here on the call, mashallah. And so he was seeking some advice. He was seeking some advice. I want to share a little bit about what he shared, inshallah. Bismillah. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of reading. This is straight from what was posted on the forums. So this brother 2000 made a thread about making it happen. So he'd been in the community for a while. He had tried a lot of different things, had an accountability buddy, and was just trying to say, look, I have these pieces. I'm able to make it for a month or so, but I just haven't broken through. So looking for some advice there. So here's what he says. After being gone for a while, he says, wow, this place has changed, mashallah. How long have I been gone? Anyhow, I've been meaning to get on for some time now, but I guess I just kept pushing it off. After seeing the notification this morning, I knew I'd be getting on here pretty soon, and it got me reflecting quite a bit about what's been going on since I was last here. The recurring emotion/thought I've had today is that I'm simply not where I want to be. I didn't want to let myself feel this way because I thought it was just self-pity and victimhood, which are no good for recovery, right? But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I wanted nothing more than to let it all go, to stop trying to force myself to have this incredible strength and will to get right back up after countless slip-ups, and to feel okay being the weak, confused, clueless person I know I really am. I've done a lot. I've tried a lot of things. I've thought and analyzed a lot. Can you guys relate to that? I've had a lot of hope and optimism. My efforts have been far from perfect, but I know I haven't been idle. More than anything, I wanted to know for sure that is recognized. So you get to that place where you're working really hard, trying a lot of different things, and you're like, is this being acknowledged? Is this being recognized? I'm still struggling. I'm still having some struggles. Can you relate to that? Things aren't great on the ground. Usually I take that to imply that something's still wrong with my efforts, my strategies, my motivation, my sincerity. As long as I'm still not sober, I'm doing something wrong, and that means that something is wrong with me. I'm giving you guys a background. I know this is a long post, but this is more or less the only one I'll be reading straight from it. But I want to give you guys the background, inshallah. Today, I wasn't going to take that. I know how hard I've been trying. I'm trying to make inner change happen. I'm trying to develop the sense that I'm responsible. I'm trying to learn to live each day on its own. I'm seeking answers and solutions. I'm trying to get right back up after slipping up. I'm trying to love myself and be compassionate with myself. All things that we talk about, learn about in recovery. I'm trying to develop and solidify strategies, habits, patterns, new ones and old ones. For some reason, I don't want to admit that it's this simple, but right now, I just want to feel that I'm okay, that things are okay, that I don't need to show or prove anything, that I don't need to force myself into some mold. Sometimes get to that point. I want to stop trying to force it. I want some relief to just be myself.
I feel like I'm completely out of breath and exhausted, and I'm only now realizing it. Like I've been constantly trying to maintain this mold of the person I want to be, but the mold is not like clay. It's like a slimy goo. When I lose focus for a second, things get messy, but I get right back to molding without even taking a breath. Is that how it's supposed to feel? Is that how recovery is supposed to feel? I'm constantly trying to build up this thing, this mold. It just keeps falling apart. Am I supposed to feel like I'm forcing myself to change? When I lose presence and connection, am I supposed to try to be present again? To try to feel grateful once again? To try to love myself and be compassionate with myself? To try to feel responsible for my actions? So I get to that place where I'm not doing my job anymore. Am I supposed to keep on trying to force myself? Sometimes it comes naturally, and it's incredible when it does. It happens sometimes, just naturally. Have an awesome week, a beautiful week. And it just feels natural. Other times I feel like I'm forcing it. I never questioned that before. Now it just made sense that there's only room for one Brother 2000 in this town. The grateful, present, responsible, honest one, or the ungrateful, indulgent, dishonest, absent-hearted, numb one. That I'm trying to go from this place of numbness and absent-heartedness to this place of responsibility, honesty. We're all trying to get there. We're trying to stay there. And he had this idea that it's one or the other. And then when he would go back to that place of being absent-minded and numb, it would feel very disheartening. I assume that when I'm the latter, I just need to run or journal or breathe or ground myself or pray until I'm back to the former me. This was a long post that was going all over the place. But the question that came back from another brother, this was years ago. This happened on the forums, and we have access to that, to have these beautiful conversations. The question that came back from Brother X was, who, beside yourself, the community, and your accountability buddy, you had an accountability buddy, who are you presently accountable to? The response that came back from Brother 2000, I'm not sure exactly what you mean. If you mean who's holding me accountable by following up on commitments I make, I would include my coach on the list, but that's it. So I have my recovery community, the forums, my coach, my accountability buddy, but that's it. And then the response came back from Brother X. Who do you report relapses to? And the response comes back. No one other than the people that I mentioned. My accountability buddy, my coach, the community, and so on. And here's where I want to get to, really the heart of why I'm sharing this story. This conversation that took place on the forums is the response that came back from Brother X. He's this kind of like straightforward guy. He said, so Brother 2000 said, no one, right? There's no one that I report relapses to. If I relapse, I relapse. Brother X says, yeah, okay, we need to change that. And this is a hard, we can understand what's accountability all about. So he says, get with the Staziyat on this, so talk with your coach, but he says, this is my take on it. Get accountable with that person who stands to suffer most from your behavior. Real, heartbreaking accountability is desperately missing for a lot of us in the community. That's half-hearted recovery work as far as I'm concerned. You want to think about expanding your circle of disclosure to include the possibility of consequence. I'll share more about this, inshallah. This is not an exercise in punitive machism. Actually, not sure the word. There's a very, very eloquent brother here. But this isn't about just punishing yourself. This isn't about finding someone to beat you up. That's not what accountability is. It's about building up our conscience. If we struggle to be what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls us to, hold justice, bear witness of the truth, we speak the truth for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, then we take some steps to help build us up to that, to help make us people that can do that. That's what happens in recovery. I share more stories, inshallah. We've totally lost perspective, Brother 2000. We need to feel how wrong we are. I'm not talking about feeling bad about our actions. Shame, right? Shame is something, a lot of times we step into that. We'll talk more about how shame fits in here, inshallah. But he says that's just lame guilt, mostly. I'm talking about internalizing the inherent evil in pornography in the sex industry, the inherent selfishness and gross egoism inherent in masturbation. We need to get sick over this, but we can't. So we need to see someone else get sick over it. Someone who loves you but is horrified by the idea that you would contribute so actively and consistently to the degradation and deprivation of yourself and other human beings. Brother X ends by saying, you spend way too much time hurting people, and it's time that someone you love found out. I'm sharing this right at the beginning of our call so that we can be thinking about the ideas. Right, I'm going to get right to the crux of it. Right to the crux of it. Right? Not really beating around with just ideas, but right to the heart of what this is all about. To give what I think is a very strong image of what accountability looks like. One of the members we have, a member spotlight stories that were shared, and one of them is actually a two-part spotlight interview. It's in the library, and he goes into detail about this individual and his marriage. He had gotten married thinking it would solve everything, something that is not an uncommon belief. Marriage can help in certain circumstances, but you have to navigate that very carefully. You can't just assume that this is going to solve everything. That's usually not true. So anyways, he had entered with that belief, and a lot of times in that situation, somebody will go for a couple months, maybe even a year or two. But if the recovery work wasn't taking place, then most often things surface back up. So in any case, he was in his marriage, and he started acting out once again and relapsing once again. And he gets caught one time. And when he does, by his wife, she goes crying to the couch and saying, "I want a divorce." Very traumatic, very, very extreme. Other people share, in one interview it was actually shared, she packed up her bags and left when one spouse found out. So these things happen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us. May Allah make things easy for us. These things happen. So, but what came out of it from there? Of course, very traumatic, very difficult discussions with his wife going back to her family and having discussions with her siblings and her parents. And they, advise her, don't go ahead and seek a divorce right away. But let's see what can happen about this. For him, it was forced. For him, he didn't choose to get caught, but it happened. And that took him into the situation of, that's pure accountability. That's pure accountability. This idea that I can act and choose, and there's not really someone checking up on me, it was just thrown out of the water for him. Now, he could continue to seek to be unaccountable if he wanted. He could have tried to find ways out of it. There's ways that we can rationalize. There's ways that we can justify, but he chose not to do that. He was in recovery, talking with Brother Ziyad. He really came to value this idea of honesty, ruthless honesty. So he didn't try to get out of it. Her parents got involved. He met with her parents. They talked through things, and and it wasn't about hiding anymore. He was purely accountable, truly accountable. And his parents and he came to the agreement that you got a year. For a year, you two are going to separate. In that year, if you act out, marriage is done. If you don't, you guys can get back together. And he valued his marriage. And in his case, he was dry. He was sober for 12 months, but he talks about it. And at that point, he had no other choice. You guys see that? He had no choice. It was very clear. Addiction or marriage. You pick. And you don't just pick once. You pick every single day, every single hour for 365 days. And then, of course, beyond that as well. Can you see how clear that made things for him? Can you see how that's pure accountability? Now, again, would it have been possible for him to still find ways out in that year? Would it have been possible for him to act out and then justify not telling them, justify not telling his spouse? Yeah, it's possible, right? But it was his choice that being accountable, that there was other, imagine, we see that, and sometimes we hesitate because we don't want to be humiliated. We don't want somebody else to be in a position they can judge us. Somebody else to be in a position where they can see truly what we're doing on a daily basis, hourly basis, minute to minute, have access to that. And we don't want to be in that situation. He was there. He was there, and that made all the difference. That made all the difference for him. So I hope you guys are starting to see when we talk about accountability, right, we're not talking about just a strategy like one of those, like a cheat code that you can type in to try to make it to where you want to be. Right? We're talking about finding a different way of dealing with the reality of being human, of being a people who struggle. Right? Let's look a little bit about our beliefs. You're going to see a couple questions that ask you. Please do this in the chat box. You'll see, not questions actually, statements, and just complete the statement. You can complete the statement with just one word or a few words. That's perfectly fine. But one statement after the other, and I'll ask you, please do type this in the chat box, but don't hit enter until I say so. So the instructions, hopefully they're clear. I'll put this first statement. If anything's unclear, then let me know before I show the next statements. Let's give ourselves a little bit of time for this so we can feel what are our beliefs. Our beliefs are going to determine our actions. Going to determine how we approach things. What are our beliefs about accountability? So the first statement is, if others know my full truth, I will. Complete it with one word, 2 words, a couple words. It's up to you. And don't hit enter in the chat box until the very end. Next statement. If others know my full truth, they will. Yeah. If you can, no worries. Didn't mean to press enter. If you can, and I'll say the reason. If you can put it all in one and then hit enter at the end, that will help so that all your responses are there together. Don't worry, I'm not gonna no worries. I'm not upset. I'm seeing some things in the chat box, but this just might help us all together. If I were held more accountable by others, I'm worried. Or I'm worried that. If you like to number them, then you can match them up as well. That will be helpful. If I were held more accountable by others, I hope. Accountability is. That'll be the last one after this. Last one. Accountability is not. Give 10 seconds. I'll let you know when you can post, inshallah. Let's give a little bit of time first. Might have some people catching up still. You can go ahead and share. If you type this in somewhere else, you can type it in the chat box now, or you can go ahead and hit enter. Those are coming in. Go ahead and reflect on some of the responses that you see. Success, ashamed, and feel relieved. Yes. Yes. I'm worried they would only see my addiction when trying to do better. I hope it wouldn't change how they see me. It's difficult but necessary. Guilt and shame. Accountability is responsibility. Accountability is not dependency. Beautiful. I'm worried that I might not keep it up consistently. Worried will undermine all the good I have truly done. I'm curious what you mean by that, Blooded. Love if you can kind of elaborate on that, but just taking a moment for some reflections. You can see our beliefs determine our actions. Our beliefs determine our actions. They determine how we go about things. If others know my full truth, they'll feel ashamed. If others know my full truth, they will feel disgusted. Right? But even with some of those beliefs, we come down to number 5 and 6. So many of us, I saw accountability is necessary. Accountability is important. Accountability is serious. Right? So we recognize that. Yeah. Success. I apologize. I probably should have mentioned if you hit Shift Enter, I think that'll give you a new line in the chat box. I apologize. I didn't mention that. Hold on to those beliefs. Not gonna suggest that you change. We have to change our beliefs just like that. But we recognize what our beliefs are, and then we play around with them. We ask which beliefs are worth holding on to, and which beliefs don't really represent the way the world works, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made things. Accountability is natural. I want to share that with you guys. We're all accountable. We're all accountable for the choices that we make. If you choose to drink 4 cups of coffee at 10 o'clock, your body's going to hold you accountable for that. 10 o'clock at night or in the morning, whatever it is. Your body's going to hold you accountable for that. You're going to see the results of that. And maybe the next day at work, if you're not able to sleep at night, right, your results at work you're going to be held accountable for. They're going to have a really hard time. You only got 2 hours of sleep. You're going to be sleeping the whole day. You just can't wait to get home. You were hoping to be really productive, hoping to have some really nice meetings. You have a presentation to give. But you feel the consequences of that. Your boss holds you accountable. Your professor, your teacher holds you accountable for the things that you produce. It's natural. It's natural. But sometimes we try to interfere with that. I have students at school that were academically dishonest, and they take measures to avoid, right, their teacher becoming aware of that, the administration becoming aware of that. Right? But it, in and of itself, is just how life is, and we fall into darkness. When we dismantle the structures of accountability through secrecy and dishonesty. But we can fix that. We can reverse that. We can reinstate the natural role of accountability by us making it important, by us recognizing the value of honesty and openness. The Prophet ﷺ, he gave this beautiful, encapsulated piece of advice to Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu that he narrates. He mentioned 7 things that my beloved advised me with. And among those things, towards the end, he says, أن أقول الحق وإن كان مرا. I should say the truth even if it's bitter. وأمرني ألا أخاف في الله لومة لائم. And he told me that I should not be afraid of anybody blaming me when I'm doing something that I know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants me to do, doing something that I know is right. Accountability takes us from manipulation to responsibility. That student that grabbed stuff from an answer key that was posted online, and it was so obvious because it's actually happened in my classroom this past year. There's an answer key posted online that answers different questions from the task that I actually gave students. So the question that I'm asking is something. The answer that they put answers a different question that's from this answer key. So it's very obvious when I found the answer key. So I talked to students, and we have a discussion. And before we had that discussion, before they were held accountable, they were manipulating. They're like, I want there to be an A on my report card for this task. Yes, I'm stressed out. Yes, I'm like staying up late. Yes, I lost a couple of weeks. I wasn't focused. So naturally, for my report card to reflect, my current level of understanding, it might not have an A. That's the reality. That's the truth. But I want to manipulate reality so it looks differently for whatever reason. That's manipulation. But when we had a discussion, now all of a sudden what's going on is responsibility. Majority of students, actually quite a few students, this last year was tough, guys. Don't judge. But there's a few students that on this specific task, they found this answer key and they're using it. When I had those discussions with them, now all of a sudden, they're responsible. They're like, yeah, I wasn't taking the class as seriously as I wanted to. And they're bringing some light to the table, and they're shedding light on what they did. It takes us from manipulation to responsibility. Why is that meaningful, and why is that important? How does that play in with our relationships, especially the key concern that so many of us mentioned, that I'm be so embarrassed. It's going to change how people see me. It's going to change how I interact with them. The problem with keeping that up, the challenge with keeping that up is, I've heard it said this way. I believe I've heard it said this way, that the truth is a mercy from Allah Azza wa Jalla. You think about a marriage, but does not only apply in marriage. Marriage it applies if you're at home with your parents. But in a marriage, it's just very obvious, very clear. I am, I'm like falling asleep on the couch. I'm absent. I snap. I get irritated. I'm up late. And all the while, my spouse is just constantly asking, what's going on? What did I do wrong? Why is this behavior that way? Why is his behavior that way? Right? And I take it upon myself. Yes, I know it's hurting her. Yes, I know it's hurting him. But I don't want to hurt them more. So I also don't want to feel feel so ashamed, so embarrassed, going to change how they see me. So we all have the intention to fix things. That's the intention we all have. But we don't take the step of, while we're working on fixing things, allowing the truth to be a little bit more manifest, the truth to be a little bit more apparent, and for us to be held accountable and responsible a little bit more fully. The damage that does is, while we're working on fixing things, I have somebody that's still being hurt day in and day out because they're wondering what's wrong with them. That harms them spiritually. And even if I am successful at fixing things, there was still this period of time that's unexplained. Maybe I'm different. Maybe I'm more kind. I'm more generous. Giving more to my spouse, to my parents, to my kids, doing better. That's good. That's something worthy of celebration. But there's history that's not forgotten. Right? And there's wounds that might still be there and are unaddressed. But once people are a little bit more aware, we want to talk about practical too. So I won't leave you today without talking about some practical things, inshallah. There are people that, when they become more aware of what's going on, that truth just brings them healing. It's hard, yes. They might cry, yes. Brother 2000 eventually says that, his mom found out. She was so shocked. She was in tears. It was like, I knew something was wrong with you. I knew something was going on, but I never thought it would be this. So yeah, it was really tough. But it was the truth. It was nothing other than the truth. And it's important that we value the truth. So what accountability is not? Let's talk a little bit of what it's not. It's not a place to confess just so you can feel better. So it's not about just dumping the guilt that we feel. It doesn't work that way. It's not its purpose. It's not an opportunity to put the responsibility of your actions on someone else. All right, I got accountability now. I have somebody that knows my internet history. I have somebody that knows all my passwords. I have my mom's responsible to put my iPad away at night. My dad's responsible to unplug the TV. My brother's responsible to hold on to my phone. Right? What's important to see is when you have people playing that role, they're supporting you, like they're doing you a big favor. But they're not taking any of the responsibility, any of the load off, right? Those are great acts of support and encouragement. If you have somebody that can see your internet history, you have somebody that says, hey, I want us to make a deal. Anytime I relapse, I'm going to let you know. Right? I want you to support me. Right? The responsibility still falls entirely upon ourselves. And it's not necessarily the more the merrier. So, sometimes I can get more people in my group, more people that see my report. Not necessarily. The nature of the relationship is very important as well. One person put it as the psychological voodoo we know we need. That's in quotes. I'm not saying that that's what I call it, but it's kind of telling just to see this description, what accountability is. So this was, again, Brother 2000, after being, asked, who do you report relapse to? It's like, nobody. Right? It's like, okay, we have to change that. Okay, what does that look like? What does that look like for me? He was not married. In the case of marriage, the person who stands to lose the most is your spouse. Period. There's not much, I don't know if there's any exceptions to that, if any. But unmarried, right? Unmarried, who's it? Mom, dad, brother, sister, friend, boss, right? Who is it? So he was exploring, trying to understand, how does this work for me? But eventually, in his case, I have a really close friend, a really cool support person. I've never shared about this. We talk about a lot of different things. I never shared about this. Eventually, he actually said, you know what, that's what he made a list. He had people. He was contemplating, considering. He wanted to invite accountability into his life. He chose it to be his friend. He was like, it just was such a game changer. He describes what that was like. It's not just accountability that had been lacking. In fact, I don't think my new support person even uses the term accountability, even though that's definitely part of the relationship. There's so much more than that. Connection, support, validation, ideas, perspectives, and accountability. Tough love. Tough love. If we were to look at the question, accountability is, one thing you could answer that question with is, accountability is connection. Why not think of it that way? But isn't it connection? Isn't it, hey, this is who I really am. This is what's really going on. Right? And that in and of itself is important for recovery. That in and of itself heals us. We connect. So that being said, when you're thinking about who to be accountable to, who can you connect with? Who's somebody that your relationship with them could use more honest connection, deeper connection? Right? Alhamdulillah. Just some more kind of perspectives. One of the hardest moments for me was getting on Skype and saying, I want to relapse. This is Sister Dove. This conversation is going to happen on the forums. Saying I want to relapse for the first time ever. It was scary, cringing, horrible, and humbling. It re-emphasized to me my addiction. It brought the truth back to the surface. We spend so much time trying to push it down. Eventually we learn to live with it. I'm much more comfortable with being open about that now with her, alhamdulillah. This is about her and her accountability buddy, the relationship that they had. We looked at different perspectives there. We looked at what accountability is, what is not. We looked at our beliefs about accountability. Right? We talked a little bit about who might be people that we can consider. I hope, I know that what we talked about so far, probably is just bringing lots of ideas to mind, a lot of thoughts, probably potentially a lot of questions too. I understand that. And I want to say that this pursuit is not straightforward. I put it that way. Yes, we have a feature on the in the community to request an accountability buddy. But no, once you're signed up with an accountability buddy, don't expect it to work like I have a new app on my phone and I just click. It's not an app. It's a human being, right? It's a human being. So it's not straightforward. But if you're walking away thinking about it, if you're walking away recognizing its importance, even if you're walking away not sure exactly where you're going next, I'm okay with that because I believe that that's the nature of relationships. I don't believe it's, relationships are straightforward where I walk away knowing exactly who I'm going to talk to now. But if you're walking away thinking about who that person is, and you're thinking about, all right, my next step in recovery, or maybe sometime down the line in the next month or so, an important item on there is I'm going to speak with another human being. I'm going to include in my circle of people that know my truth another human being. You're opening. You're breaking. You're breaking away at that part of us that holds on so much to wanting to make reality look the way we want it. And I promise you, the truth as it is better than anything we can come up with. The truth as it is what deserves to be known, what deserves for us to recognize, right? And it doesn't require any manipulation from us. May Allah SWT help us. May Allah SWT support us. One of the questions that came in, Cal, you're still here. Cal, earlier I was talking, but I think you were still joining the audio. So I was actually trying to share with you that I have your question. And I wanted to kind of talk about things a little bit before talking about that question directly. So I'm going to go back to that question, Cal. I believe that's the only one that that was brought in. But I'm going to ask you guys while I pull that up, please share either, actually, if you can do both, awesome. But otherwise, What's something that you're walking away with? Something that you're still wondering about. Give you guys some time for that. I'm gonna pull up this question. Inshallah, I'm gonna make sure it's addressed. Okay. I'll also check the direct messages too, because those. Okay, I apologize. 2 of you had sent me a direct message. I didn't realize, but now I see them. Apologies about that. So those are in front of me. Yeah. Yeah. We'll talk, inshallah, about these 2 items. I won't mention the names since those are sent in privately, but we'll discuss those, inshallah. Inshallah. So one of the questions was that I had an accountability buddy, but we stopped working with each other because I abused him due to taking 18 credit hours. So it sounds like it's a very stressful time. It's a very stressful time. And I have not since pursued getting an accountability buddy due to this experience. Would you suggest searching for one or not? And it was shared, the background here, that I have Asperger's and borderline personality disorder. Jazakallah khair for sharing that. Jazakallah khair for sharing that. I would, what comes to mind, we all need support. The way that it looks, varies. The way it looks is different from person to person. But the first thing that comes to mind, thank you, Abdul, for pointing that out. I hope the audio is okay. The first thing that comes to mind, Cal, is, I'm just reminded that sometimes you'll get into an accountability buddy relationship, and like both people are coming from places of great poverty, right? Great need. So imagine 2 people getting together that are both very, very, very needy and are not in a place to be able to give to each other very much. That can be tough. That can be tough. So two things to happen. Two things to keep in mind. If you find yourself in an accountability buddy relationship, and it just it doesn't feel like we're getting along. It might be that as individuals, connection is a beautiful thing. We connect as 2 human beings. We connect with a variety of different people, right? But not always a perfect fit. So it might be a fit thing. But also, I was doing some reading back in the forums. What are some of the conversations people were having about accountability? That if both individuals are in it only for themselves, it's not likely to go very far. It's not likely to go very far. If there can be some initiative, at least from one side, right, to be in it for the other person, then that'll make a big difference. So Cal, if you're in that relationship and things didn't go well for the other person, you guys split up. If there's a relationship that you can be in with somebody that has some space that they can be giving, maybe maybe you see them as kind of like a mentor, a couple steps ahead of you, but at the same time, there's still some closeness there that you can turn to them, you can ask them. It doesn't always have to be perfectly equal. Sometimes, in my experience, it can be a little bit lopsided, where one person is kind of giving a little bit more than the other until the other is kind of uplifted, and then you see where it goes from there. Once you're on equal ground, right? Then you might stay together, or the other guy might say, I'm good. I have other support relationships, and then it might not be as needed. But you might find somebody then that is, equal ground. If you find yourself in a situation where you're maybe a couple steps ahead of somebody's a little bit, kind of working on the beginning steps, you're not able to count on them so much for the support that you need, but you still might find it meaningful that you're supporting them. And then you have somebody up here that's pulling you up. So that's one thing that comes to mind is, if you found yourself in a place where both individuals are very needy, you might consider looking for somebody that's a couple steps ahead, maybe somebody that's kind of like a mentor, that that can have space for your particular needs, for your particular needs. Allahu A'lam. I'd love to hear a follow-up, Cal, on those thoughts, inshallah, if you have a moment. But I do want to take a look at just two things that came in, and these ones will be, I think, fairly quick, inshallah. But again, for those that ask these questions, if you would like to follow up, just post in the chat box. But look at these two briefly. Have them in front of me here. I'm constantly worried about the revealing of sins when it comes to accountability. So in a moment, inshallah, once we're officially done, I'm going to share a article we have posted on the blog that is from, I think it is an interview with Sheikh Faraz Rabbani. He discusses, our spiritual obligation towards not revealing sins and how that interplays with healing from addiction. So I'll share that, inshallah. But in a nutshell, the revealing of sins in a way that's boastful, in a way that is that propagates the sin, in a way that makes it seem like it's okay, right? So somebody's partying and they post, pictures on Facebook and whatnot. That's very spiritually damaging for the community, right? The revealing of sins with a trusted person, with a professional, with a coach, right? To help me heal, and is in no way about boasting or spreading the harm of that sin, is a different story. And I'll share the link, inshallah, to this article so you can hear it directly from that discussion. There's another question which was this is a clarification, I think. I encourage my children to follow the beautiful teachings of Islam. If they find my weakness, I fear they will reject me, and also any good that I stand for. I do see another question came in from Brother Zubair. I see some of you are stepping out. I know it's at the top of the hour here, so I totally understand, but I just don't want to leave these questions unaddressed. So we'll look at these, inshallah, and I'll give my formal salams here in a minute or two, inshallah. But yeah, beautiful. So my kids, see my weakness. I feel they reject me, and also any good that I stand for. SubhanAllah. We are weak. We are needed. But yes, there are relationships of people that look up to us. There are relationships that people need us to be strong. But the thing is, they need us to be actually strong, not only to look strong. So in terms of like practicality, does any of our discussion imply that my children have to know about my struggle with with pornography and whatnot? No, that's not implied here. We said accountability is not the more the merrier, right? It's not the more the merrier. But in a general sense, for those around us to, sometimes you're able to share, sometimes you're able to invite honesty without sharing the details. I think this is practical. I think this is helpful. It doesn't solve everything, so please don't take this as my solution. I'm going to tell everybody that I struggle, but I'm not going to tell them with what. No, because then there's still a lot of secrecy there. You don't invite somebody to see the full extent, right? But sometimes I share with my family. There's some things I struggle with. I'm getting some help with them, right? You can consider that. Because that's very different than trying to keep up the image that I don't struggle at all. And that, yes, I'm giving khutbahs and I'm, leading this and things like that. And that's because I'm strong. So our families will see our weakness. Our children will see our weakness, but they'll see how we react. They'll see how we respond. They'll see our striving. They'll see our striving. Can they see that? Can they see that, I have a hard time, but I really make it a priority that I spend some time working on myself. I spend some time on my Quran. I spend some time on my salah. Not because I'm strong, but because I'm weak. Because I need to strengthen myself. So I wanted to address that from the practical aspect, that if you understood that this meant that it's necessary to disclose to your children, that's not the implication here. But then also, broadening our understanding of what it looks like for others to see us more truly. Others to see us more truly. So I'm going to share that, I do struggle with some things. I'm getting help. I'm not here to discuss the details. But if somebody is directly impacted by something, then then I might consider sharing a little bit more. And then I'll look at one more here, inshallah. Would that mean it's better to call my accountability rather than simply texting them? It's so hard to give specifics about a relationship. Right? I don't know. Maybe you guys are in different time zones. In different time zones, and you're awake at different times. It might be hard to talk. Maybe you're both really busy. It might be hard to talk on the phone often. But maybe you are in need. Maybe you don't have people that you talk with at length. There's somebody you can talk with for 30 minutes. Every now and then, I'm not saying all the time, but somebody you can connect with for 30 minutes. Just really kind of vent a little bit, share with them. If not, then you might consider in your accountability buddy relationship that, hey, let's try this out. I'm not going to do it all the time, but let's schedule it. Schedule it once a week, 2 weeks, once a month, or let's just try it, not even set a schedule. And let's see if I want to try to be a little bit more open, share a little bit more openly, and do that. But if you're like, I already have that in other relationships, then sure, accountability buddy, just text. Just text. Right? So again, for all of these, you're welcome to follow up with clarification or further questions, inshallah, or a what if or a but. But I do see Suluk that asked a general question. Yeah, that's fine, Suluk, but I'm going to go ahead first and give the formal salams, inshallah, and then you're more than welcome to ask the question, inshallah. Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept from everybody. Allahumma jal jama'ana hadha jam'an marhuma wa tafarruqana min ba'di tafarruqan ma'asuma. Allah, make this a gathering in which we receive your mercy and your blessings and your acceptance. Forgive our failings and our shortcomings and help us to grow and to do better and make things easy for us and our families and all the ummah of Nabiina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Barakallahu feekum, everybody. Inshallah, keep going. Get back to the forums, get back to your sobriety mastermind. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just get on the community, log in. Inshallah, talk to people. Talk to people, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Suluk, you can go ahead, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.
My question basically might not be related to the topic that we just discussed, and it was more a general kind of question I wanted to ask. Basically, you spoke about a few things, for example, accountability buddy. And first of all, I just want to highlight one thing, that I'm absolutely new. It was my first session. And so I'm trying to explore stuff on the website and trying to understand things up. So with that in mind, so I just want to say a few things. For example, you spoke about a buddy, accountability buddy. So I don't know, how do we get this accountability buddy? And also when I joined, I was thinking that maybe I'll be talking to someone, especially from your side, regarding the problem or the things I'm going through right now, just to know and to understand that what is it that I'm going through and how can I really control this and how can I really fix this completely. But I don't know if we will be discussing with someone like this, or we'll just have a session per month like this where everybody will be there in the session directly.
Yeah. First of all, for everybody that's here, guys, go ahead and say welcome, Assalamu alaikum, to Suluk, first office hour. And I'm sure you're not the only one. So if it's also your first office hour, I'd like to know. Some names here are a little bit I haven't seen before. Who's the first time office hour? could do a hand raise. You could type in the chat box. Talib, Joseph. Welcome. Muallima. Inshallah. It's beautiful. Alhamdulillah. Oh, TJ. First office hour. Alhamdulillah. I hope it's meaningful. I hope it's beneficial. We explore different topics in the office hour. Sometimes we have a guest. I love it when we have a guest, because then I just ask. I get to just ask the questions then. Alhamdulillah. We also take some specific topics that are recovery specific, like accountability. We look at how do we think about those things. We try to understand them on a deeper level and try to walk away with some action steps. So I welcome you all to this one. We'll be doing this office hour every month. And Suluk, as far as an accountability buddy, let's see. Where is the request? Accountability request portion. Suluk, asking about Brother 2000. Let me get back to you on that. Anybody else curious about accountability buddies, by the way, just before so I know how to do this. Okay. Anybody on here? So I'll be honest, my main focus is the office hours, and the community sometimes changes how they, how the structure of things work. So if anybody already went through the accountability process recently, go ahead and just share with us a little bit about how you did it recently. I can share like kind of how it was, further back, but the process might have changed. So is there anybody that has done it recently that can chime in on what that was like for you? Okay. Yeah, I did notice those requests happening on the forum. So the reason I was wondering, because I know at some point we had a feature, like where you click a button and fill in some information. But I'm wondering if now it's just something that is that you do directly. So what I'm going to do, so I see Suluk and Success. We're curious about that. If I can ask you, actually, if those are your PYG nicknames, then I'll be able to find you easily. If they are not, please tell me what your PYG nicknames are. I'm going to get an email to you guys both, just sharing if there's anything you need to know about how to go about the accountability buddy request, or if it's simply like Brother Zubair shared, that you can request that on the forums, and then that would be somebody that serves that purpose. But essentially, it's a support person, and if it's somebody from recovery, then you guys support each other with accountability. It looks different for different people. Some people will connect each day for 10 minutes. Some people will connect for longer. I think we do have a workshop that goes into like a suggested format for that. So for Success, IA, and Suluk, I want to get you guys that information directly to your emails. So I'll follow up, inshallah. Okay. Most recent one, I saw that I had to invite someone. Okay. Just on the forum, Success. Is that what you mean? And then Suluk, about the other things that you mentioned, about receiving support, speaking with somebody directly from the team. So the PYG community membership, which might be what you signed up for, with just being part of the community. So that is essentially, I look at it as, it's kind of like a gym membership, where you're going to get access to a lot of different stuff. And it's a lot of stuff, right? But, the team does their best to make it clear where to start and where to go from there. So I also see it as kind of like a starter kit. As you work through the program, you might find that you would like to work with somebody more closely, like a coach or a therapist. That's not included in the community membership, but it is offered by Purifier Gaze. Purifier Gaze coaching program is available. But as far as the membership itself, we have monthly office hours. We have the forums. The forums are highly recommended as a place. You can really do a lot by writing. I see a lot of beautiful writing happening in the community. And then there are sobriety mastermind groups as well. Those are groups that meet every week, and they're smaller groups. So it's maximum of 15 people. And those are groups that meet every week on like Zoom or a phone call or something of that nature. I believe I did see on the forums somebody announcing that there's a new group being started for Sobriety Mastermind. So that's being shared. And I'll make sure, Saluk, you get the details on that as well, inshallah. If I left anything unaddressed, just let me know, inshallah. I see we have a couple people that stuck around, so just shows that we love being together, alhamdulillah. Just beautiful. We love hearing from one another, which is beautiful. Is there anything I didn't address, guys? Yeah. I think it makes sense. Okay, so I owe an email to Saluk and Success. That's all I'm walking away with. I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Inshallah. Okay. Barakallahu feekum. Again, welcome to our new members and welcome to those who join the office hour first time. I hope to see you next month. Next month, we do have a guest, inshallah, on a really, really beautiful and important topic. It's going to be toxic family dynamics, how to navigate those, inshallah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.